Hi, and welcome to session 20. In this session, we're going to talk about all the chords you ever needed to know. We've gone over quite a few chords up at this point, but now we're just going to cover a couple of little gaps that we haven't been able to hit yet. So in this session, we're going to learn about chords and inversions, chords and their abbreviations, which we haven't gotten into yet. We're going to learn about alternate bass chords, like a D with an F sharp in the bass. We're going to learn some very cool open-sounded E, B, kind of a drone chord. As soon as I play them, you'll recognize them. We're going to learn about diminished chords, augmented chords. I'll give you forms on all of those, as well as building unfamiliar chords. If you don't know what a chord is, we'll teach you how to build it. Okay? And resources where you can find out new information on chord forms. In the guitar tips section, we're going to cover practicing, how to effectively practice, the power of warming up, and the key to playing fast, the power of inspiration and perseverance, and the keys to being a good musician. So we've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's start talking about chords. And now we've learned a good bit about chords, and here's the last little gasp of chords that we need to learn before I set you off and let you loose into the real world. Okay? We've covered bar chords, our Fs, C sharp minor 7th, 5-string, 6-string bar chords. We've covered major 7ths, minor 7ths. We've covered 9th chords, a little bit about 13th chords as well. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple of more things about those chords. Now remember, a C major triad has the notes C, E, and G in it. A major triad, there's nothing by the chord. Let's talk about some abbreviations. If you don't see anything by a chord, you just see a C, an F, or a G, that's a major triad you're dealing with there. If it's a C, it'd be a C, E, G, F, F, A, C. Now, if you're dealing with a minor chord in triads, well, some of the abbreviations you might see would be like a C with an M by it, that would be minor, or C, M-I-N, or maybe even a C with a minus sign. That's kind of a jazz way of writing it. Okay? Augmented chords, sometimes you'll see C, aug, A-U-G, the abbreviation for that. Sometimes you'll see just a plus sign. The plus sign is telling you that that is an augmented chord. Okay? Now let's talk about diminished. Diminished triads, if I see a little 0 up at the top of the chord, kind of a superscript 0 up there, that's a diminished. That's what they're trying to tell you. Sometimes you'll see it as C, D-I-M, but most often you'll see it with the little 0 up at the top. Okay? Now, when we get into 7th chord, these abbreviations get a little bit trickier. Okay? A major 7th can be written C, M-A-J, 7, or it can be written with a C with a triangle 7. That triangle 7th is telling you you're dealing with a major 7th. Even if it's a C major 9th or C major 13th or whatever, if it has that triangle in there, that's equivalent to the word major. Okay? Minor 7ths, it would be C minor 7th or C M-I-N 7th or C M 7th or even C minus sign 7th, common abbreviations for them. For a dominant 7th chord, that would be just a letter name and a 7, F7, G7, A7. Okay? For a half diminished, it would be a circle with a slash through it. Okay? If diminished is a circle, then half diminished would be a circle with a slash through it. Okay? With 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths, you just add whatever number of notes that you need to get up to that chord. Let's do some examples. What would a C7th, and then look, I've got some parentheses there and a flat 9. So what is that telling you? Well, that's telling you that's a C7 chord, C, E, G, B flat, and they want the 9th in there, but they want it flatted, which would be a D flat. That chord would be something like this. You can also do a C7 sharp 9, like that. What about that other one I have down there? I was just kind of having some fun. An F minor 11th with a flat 5, flat 9. Oh my goodness, what is that? No problem, you just figure it out one step at a time. F minor, so it's F, A flat, C. It doesn't say major 7th, so it's an E flat in there. So what do we have? F, A flat, C, E flat, and then G, and then B flat. Okay, that's the 11th. But look what we have to do. We have to flat that 5th. So instead of the C, it becomes a C flat. Instead of the G, it becomes a G flat. So the whole chord written out would be an F, A flat, C flat, E flat, G flat, and a B flat. Okay? That's a little bit about abbreviations. Let's talk about inversions. This is something you'll see quite often. Slashes. You'll have a note, and then you'll have a slash, and then you'll have another note. Well, what in the world are they talking about there? The note that is underneath the slash is the note that's in the bass. Okay, so in our first example there, it's a G/B. So that's telling you they want a G chord, but they want the B as the lowest note. Okay, so instead of playing a G chord like this, I'd have to play the B as the lowest note, and that would be a G with a B in the bass. Okay, or you could do it like this. Okay, next one would be like a D with an F sharp in the bass, very common chord. It's a D chord, F sharp is the lowest pitch, so you'd have to put the F sharp in the bottom, and a common way to do that is something like this. So G with a B in the bass, D with an F sharp in the bass, would be something like that. Now sometimes the bass note is not necessarily part of the chord. It's an alternate bass, we call in the business. Okay, so you'll see like an F chord / G. Well, that's an F chord with a G in the bass. How I would play that is something like this. Here's my F chord, and then I added the G into the bass. Okay? And again, that diamond is telling you which root that you can use, and you can transpose that wherever you wanted to. Okay? Another one is a D with an E in the bass. Let's do this on the 5th string. Or wait a minute. Right here. We have a D triad with an E in the bass. That would be a D with an E in the bass. Here's some inversion chord forms that you may not be familiar with. We already talked about a couple of them. A D with an F sharp is like this. An E with a G sharp, a little bit of a stretch, is like that. An open G with a B is like that. What about a B flat chord with a C in the bass? That's a pretty easy chord, one big bar here. Or you can play it up here as well. Okay? Now, let's talk about some really cool chords that you can use and incorporate into your playing. I don't have any other way to say it, but they use the E and the B string, and they just kind of end up with this cool droning sound. So, guitar players can come up with these little tricks like this, and you end up with some very colorful chords without having to think too hard. And you can use your fingers and patterns to come up with really cool chords. This would be like an E5. Now, if I take this same form, and I move it down to, let's say, C, I end up with a C major 7th, if I counted all those notes up together. Okay? If I did it in D, I end up with a D6/9. Now that may sound a little complex for you. Let me play it for you. Let me put on a little chorus, a little delay. Very common little progression that a lot of guitar players use. If I take that similar pattern and run it all the way through, I end up with an A2, a B sus, we already talked about a C major 7th, D6/9, E, the last one would be maybe an F sharp sus right there. That one doesn't sound too good. Okay, so some of them work better than others. Okay, now let's go through these F sharp minor 11th based ones. Okay, so F sharp minor 11th we learned is here. Okay, if I take this up a couple of steps, I end up with maybe an E2 with a G sharp in the bass. If I go up one more, I end up with this really hip A minor 11th chord. Then we have maybe a B minor sus. Okay, C doesn't sound too good, so we skip that and go to C sharp. And then D minor, and maybe E minor. So you can get a lot of good mileage out of chords like that. Really gives your playing some character and some depth, and you don't need to understand all the theory behind it, even though I hope you do. You can just use those patterns to come up with some really hip chords. Okay? 2 more forms we haven't touched on yet that you're going to see. One of them is a diminished chord. Okay? Let me give you the 6-string form that I use all the time. This would be like a G diminished. You got a bar here on this 1st string, 2nd finger up here, 3rd finger down there. I'm muting that 5th string. Okay? If I want a 5-string version of a 5th string version of it, this would be like a C diminished. Okay? Inside 4 strings only. If I want the 4th string version of it, E diminished like that. Now, here's a great thing you can do with diminished chords. Diminished chords involve the same relationship between the notes. A C, E flat, and a G flat, and an A, or a B double flat, are all the same distance from each other, so it allows you to do some pretty cool things on guitar. If the chord is like a G diminished, I could do something like this. I can just keep building on those so you can get a lot of good mileage out of your diminished chords using them that way. You can also substitute them for like a dominant 7th with a flat 9. Okay, so if I have a C7 with a flat 9, I can substitute an E diminished in there. That's just another little trick for you. You can grab that if you want to. Augmented chords, okay, involve raising that 5th up. 5th string version that I use is like here. 5th string version would be something like this. Those are just some common forms that we use. Folks come to me all the time and they think, wow, you know a bazillion different forms. Well, I really don't know all that many. What I have shown to you over these last 20 sessions is a good 80-90% of the chords I'll ever use. I wish when I was growing up somebody would have shown me, here's all the chords that I use in my guitar playing lifetime, or the majority of them, and I could grab them. So yes, there is a few, but write them down in a notebook and learn them to have them underneath your fingers. That's one of the things that's been a constant advantage for me, just knowing a few more chords than the guy sitting next to me. Okay? And it doesn't take many before folks think you're a guitar chord genius just because you know, all that means is you know 2 more chords than the guy sitting next to you. Okay? When in doubt, you don't know what the chord is, build it. That's why we've done all this chord spelling exercises. Okay? A chord is just a combination of notes. All you have to do is get those 3 or 4 notes together and you have a chord. Or you can also go into your Mel Bay's Guitar Bible Big Chord Dictionary. Those are mildly helpful. A lot of times it's just the same 20 chords done in a bunch of different keys, and they make a big, real thick book and make you pay a bunch of money for it. But sometimes if you need a quick chord fast, you can look it up there. You can always go online and look up chords as well. Okay, now one more thing I want to talk about in our guitar tips section here is practicing. Practicing is something you're going to be doing all of your life. And it's something that we can practice in a smart way, or we can just noodle around and waste a bunch of time and never get what we want to get done. You always want to practice. Here's some practice keys. Practice with a purpose in mind. Practice. I play guitar for a living. When I have to practice something, I practice it to learn that one particular part. I don't go through the whole song, verses, choruses, all that sort of stuff to get to that tricky guitar part. That's not what helps me. I go right to the tricky guitar part that I need to figure out, and I practice it. You go slow. How slow do you need to go? You need to go as slow as you possibly can to get it right, and then slowly increase your speed. So the first thing of practicing is go slow and practice with a purpose. Next thing you want to do is always practice a little bit each day. Guitar playing is not like some other hobbies or crafts. It's something that you have to keep up. There's a lot of physical things that we do, and so you need to practice a little bit each day. What's enough? Well, I don't know. If you can spend 20 minutes 5 out of 7 days of the week with your guitar, you're making good progress. Okay? I hear about these guys that, oh yeah, when I was a teenager I spent 8-9 hours with my guitar. Well, great. That's fabulous. For me, if I can grab 15-20 minutes, I think it's a success. So see if you can set aside some time to do that, a little bit each day, and you'll get some good progress done. Okay? There is no substitute for diligent practice. Just go after it a little bit. Is it fun? No. I do it for a living, and it's never fun. So get over that. It wasn't fun when I was a kid, and it's not fun now. It's something that you have to do, like lifting weights, to get where you want to be, is the practicing. Okay, let me tell you another secret. It's the power of warming up. And most musicians, we're in a hurry, and we're lazy, and we never get around to actually playing a few minutes before we're actually supposed to get up and play, whether you're playing at church or whether you're playing with friends or something like that. It's a good idea to get a few minutes of practicing in before you play. Here's what I do when I warm up. I usually go through a major scale. I set my metronome on 60, and I just do 16th notes through a major scale. Be something like this. Then I go to the next form. keep going through all of that form, all the way up the entire neck of the instrument, and then I go back down again. Okay, I can get through that as I slowly, and then I come all the way down, then I crank my metronome up a click, and that gets me to like 64, and then I do it again. And usually by about the 20 minutes, I'm usually around 120 or so, and I'm able to do 16th notes at 120. Now that I found that if I don't do the slower steps and I skip those, then I just don't get to where I could have gotten had I taken the time to go through it slow. It's kind of like lifting weights. You don't just walk into the gym and throw up your highest weight and expect to bench press it. You got to work your way up to it. Musicians are athletes of small muscles, and so a lot of what we do is physical, so a good time of warming up is well worth it. You can do major scales, you can do pentatonic scales. Basically, it's just getting your blood flowing and getting your fingers used to firing together. Okay, you can do a chromatic scale. Here's a good example of a chromatic scale. Starting at the 5th fret on this A, and I slide down to the next string, back a fret, next string, back a fret. Now here I stay, and I go back a fret, and there I'm at A again. Okay, good finger exercise to get you doing. Remember our finger exercises like this? All these things are good to warm up on. Okay, now let me share with you the key to playing fast. We'd make $1 million if I could tell you the key to playing fast is in some little trick. I've been playing all my life. Here's the only trick I have found to playing fast, despite all the books and videos that I've gotten. The key to playing fast is slow down. If I'm trying to play a lick super fast, here's 2 ways I can do it. If I just start, here's what the average person does. They take the lick, let's say I'm going to do the pentatonic scale, and they just play it as fast as they can. And they do something like that, and they just kind of fake there and fluff their way through it, and they think they're playing fast. Okay, that's not real effective. Here's what I found to actually get some improvement in playing fast. Go slow until you can actually play it. And you're playing every note, everything's in control. You do it again. You slowly kick up your metronome. You slowly do it again. Slowly do it again. Eventually, you'll get up high enough to where you're actually playing it fast, but you're in control. And that's the key to playing fast. What is a humongous waste of your time as a player is to just keep hitting that wall. Oh, wait a minute, I can do it better. Wait a minute. And just keep hitting that wall. If I did 5 minutes of starting slow, that's worth 30 minutes of me sitting there on my bed, hitting the wall every time and trying to do that. I hope that makes some sense to you. Your fingers will only do what you've trained them to do. A wonderful quote by a fantastic guitarist, Chris Proctor, classical guitarist, is he said, "In your head is every musical idea you've ever heard, but your fingers will only do what they've been trained to do." And that is so true. If you want to be able to play those hot licks, it's not just going to come to you in the heat of battle. You've got to go through and pay your dues and do all these exercises to get them underneath your fingers. Okay? That brings me to the last point of being a good musician and practicing. The power of inspiration and perseverance. If you're an average player, you kind of get sick of hearing yourself for a while, and you go through seasons of I play a little bit better, then I don't play quite as well. And I'm not too interested in my playing. If you find yourself in a dry season of playing, you need to get inspired, buddy. Go down, buy yourself a CD, go out, hear some musicians, and take an evening and go do that. Get some inspiration back into your musical mind. That will help you go the distance and get some new ideas. You know, I've heard a quote said, "A fool just keeps doing the same thing over and over and expects different results to happen." If you want new things to happen in your playing, get some new ideas, new inspiration. That's one thing. Get inspired. Watch some other players. Figure out what they're doing. Go up and ask them, what gear are you using? What are you playing there? The other thing that I found that makes a difference, and this is from someone who's played all of his life, is perseverance. You need to keep doing it. You need to keep doing it and work hard at it. It's not just going to come by watching a video series. I wish it would. I'd be a very rich man if it would. But it's not. It comes by working hard at it. A lot of these concepts we've given you take a lot of time. It's easy for me to explain, but it takes a lot of time for you to understand. So I would just encourage you, persevere in it, and you'll be able to get to the results that you're wanting to get out of your own playing. Okay? Here's some last-minute keys to being a good musician. when you're in a band situation, work to complement what the other people are doing. Don't just copy what they're doing. If the piano player's playing chords and you got a keyboard player playing chords, the last thing we need you as a guitar player is to be chunking out the chords too. That's adding nothing to the band mix if you already have a keyboard player that is doing that. You need to think of something interesting that complements what they're doing. If they're just chunking out the chords, zhang, zhang, gang, maybe you could do something, and again, it doesn't have to be complex, but you could do something like... Now suddenly I have a really hooky little guitar part. I'm not playing anything complex. I'm using a couple of different notes. So it's not hard. It's just playing something hooky and I'm listening to the other musicians around us. That's your big key. Okay? If everyone is playing high, the last thing they need me doing is up there high with them. Then it just becomes this big garbled mess. If they're high, I go low. If they're low, I go to the higher register. If everybody's playing busy, I simplify and do something like that. If everybody has open spaces, then I might get a little busier, give it a little bit of a beat happening. Okay, those are some secrets to coming up with good guitar parts that separates you from other players. Get out of your own playing. Don't just think when you're in a band situation, it's all about me and I'm so all concerned about these chords that I'm doing and stuff like that. Listen to what's going on around you. That's what's going to give you the creative ideas to be able to make some good music. And remember the purpose in your playing. You want to play with a purpose. I don't want to just play just for fun, even though it is a blast to play, but play to get enjoyment out of your life and also to enrich the lives of others. Okay, here's your assignment for this week. I want you to practice the alternate bass chords and the chord progressions that we have in the back of your book. Okay, those chord exercises are real helpful and you can get a lot of good working out of these chord forms underneath your fingers if you do them. The idea is to be able to get them fast, where you can grab them immediately. That's where you're going to get some good mileage out of these chords. Practice the open E, B kind of drony chords like this. Play around with it. It's a very common sound these days. Everybody's using it. Mess around with it. See if you can come up with some own progressions of your own that can lead you into some creative territory. I also want you to learn these new chord forms we talked about, diminished, augmented. Get a few of those underneath your fingers. I don't know a ton of augmented or diminished chords. I know one on each string. I know 3. Yet you'd be amazed how much you can impress people if you just know a couple of chords like that. It's been an honor and a privilege being able to teach you, and I hope that some of the concepts and ideas that I've been able to share really sink down deep into your playing and will change the way you play for the rest of your life. We'll see you. Okay, welcome to the workshop. We covered an awful lot of ground with our various chord forms that we learned, the alternate bass chord forms. Let's just review a couple of those. What is a D with an F sharp in the bass? Remember that slash is telling you the note underneath the slash is what note is in the bass. It's not 2 chords you're playing. It's 1 chord with a certain note in the bass. So a D with an F sharp in the bass. Remember that chord form? What about an E with a G sharp in the bass? What about a B, or excuse me, a G chord with a B in the bass? Okay, so let's do a little chord progression. Let's do a G to a D with an F sharp in the bass, to maybe an E minor 7th, to a D sus. Okay, so it'd be something like this. 1, 2, G, go. D with an F sharp in the bass, E minor, D sus, one more time, G, D with an F sharp in the bass, E minor, D sus. Maybe we could go then to a C, maybe a C2, G with a B in the bass, back to C2, G and the B in the bass, C2, G with a B in the bass, D sus, maybe a D, D with an F sharp, G. Great. See how all those chords work together? Let's cover a couple more. Remember our diminished forms that we talked about? How do you do a diminished form on the 6th string on, let's say, a B flat? What if you saw B flat diminished? Where would you go? Well, here's the form, and here's my root. I go up to B flat, and there's my B flat diminished. What if I wanted it on the 5th string form, and I wanted an E diminished? Well, no problem. That'd be here. 4th string here. 6th string here. Remember, it repeats every step and a half. So this is an E diminished, this is an E diminished, this is an E diminished. They're all E diminished because all of the scale tones, very conveniently, are all the same distance from each other, so we can move them around. Augmented chords. Let's cover a couple of those. Remember our F augmented that we touched on? Okay. Remember our C augmented? Okay. Let's do a little exercise. Let's do like a C minor ninth to maybe an F minor to a G augmented. Okay? 1, 2, C minor ninth, go. F minor, G augmented, great. Okay, now adding these chords to your chord vocabulary will help you go a long way into just being creative in what you want to do. It's been a wonderful series that we've been able to go through. I would encourage you to keep up this good work and always strive to keep hitting the high notes and keep striving for new things. We'll see you.